What if I told you that manifestation doesn't take months or years? What if it could happen in seconds? Not because you try harder, not because you chase more, but because something within you shifts. There are signs, subtle, powerful signs, that appear right before your reality changes. Most people ignore them, some doubt them. And because of that, they miss the very moment everything was about to unfold. But if you can recognize these signs, if you can stay with them, you won't just manifest, you will experience it instantly. So don't listen casually, because what you're about to hear might be the exact moment your reality begins to change. There comes a moment in this journey where something within you becomes still, not because you have seen proof, not because the world has confirmed anything, but because you no longer need it to. This is the state of certainty without evidence, the final state where manifestation is no longer something you are trying to achieve, but something you have already accepted as done. It is quiet, it is calm, and it is deeply powerful. Most people believe certainty comes after results. They think, once I see it, then I will believe it. But this way of thinking keeps them waiting, always looking outside for confirmation before allowing themselves to feel secure. What they don't realize is that this reverses the entire process. The outer world does not create certainty, the inner state does. And once that certainty is established within, the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. This kind of certainty is not loud or forced. It is not repeating affirmations in desperation or trying to convince yourself of something you don't truly feel. It is a natural knowing that settles within you, a feeling that says, it's already mine, even when there is no visible sign to support it. And strangely, when you reach this point, the urge to check, to search, to question disappears. You stop looking for validation because you no longer feel the absence. And this is where true transformation begins. Because as long as you are looking for evidence, you are still operating from a state of lack. You are saying, I don't have it yet, and I need proof. But when you move into certainty, you are no longer asking. You are accepting. You are no longer hoping. It is already done in your mind. And that shift, though invisible, changes everything. At first, your mind may resist this. It will try to pull you back into logic. It will ask, how can you be sure when nothing has changed? But this is where your awareness must remain strong, because what you are doing is stepping beyond appearances. You are choosing to trust something deeper than what your senses can perceive. Think of it like this: every creation begins in the unseen. Before anything becomes visible, it exists as an idea, a feeling, a state. And once it is fully accepted in that form, its expression in the physical world becomes inevitable. Certainty without evidence means you have already completed the process within. The outer world is simply catching up. This is why people often manifest suddenly, as if things happened overnight. But in truth, the shift happened long before. It happened in the moment they stopped doubting, the moment they no longer needed reassurance, the moment they fully accepted it as real within themselves. You must allow yourself to reach that point, not by forcing it, but by gently returning to it. Every time doubt arises, do not fight it harshly. Just return to your knowing. Remind yourself, I don't need to see it to know it's done. And as you do this consistently, that feeling of certainty will grow stronger, more natural, more stable. Eventually it will become your default state. And once it does, something remarkable happens. You begin to live differently. You think differently. You react differently. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that does not depend on external conditions. You are no longer shaken by delays or appearances because you know they are temporary. This is the final state, not excitement, not desperation, but calm assurance. So if you find yourself in a place where you feel at peace, where you are no longer chasing, where you simply know, do not question it. Do not try to figure it out, because that feeling is the sign that you are no longer waiting for your manifestation. You have already claimed it. There is a stage in this journey that many misunderstand, yet it is one of the most powerful shifts you can experience, and that is detachment. At first glance, detachment may sound like giving up, like losing interest, or like no longer caring about what you desire. But true detachment is none of these things. It is not indifference. It is freedom. It is the ability to desire something deeply without being controlled by the need for it. And when you reach this state, something extraordinary happens, manifestation accelerates. Most people operate from attachment. They want something and immediately they begin to cling to it. They think about it constantly, check for signs, look for progress, and measure every moment against whether it is happening or not. This creates pressure. It creates resistance. Because underneath that constant focus is a hidden message: I don't have it yet. And that message is what the outer world continues to reflect. Attachment is not about how much you want something. It is about how much you feel incomplete without it. When you feel like your happiness depends on the outcome, you place your power outside of yourself. You make the desire bigger than you. And in doing so, you create distance between you and what you want. You begin to chase, to force, to control. And the more you do that, the more it seems to stay just out of reach. Detachment, on the other hand, is a complete reversal of this state. It is when you realize that your fulfillment does not come from the manifestation. It comes from within you. You begin to feel whole, complete, and at peace, regardless of whether the outer world has caught up yet. You still desire what you desire, but you are no longer desperate for it. You are no longer waiting for it to make you feel something. You already feel it. And this is the shift that changes everything. Because when you no longer feel the lack of something, you stop sending out the signal of not having it. Instead, you begin to embody the state of already having it. Your energy becomes lighter, calmer, more stable. You are no longer reacting to every delay or obstacle, because your inner state is not dependent on external confirmation. This is why detachment accelerates manifestation. It removes resistance. Think of it like holding something too tightly. The tighter you grip, the more tension you create. But the moment you loosen your grip, everything flows naturally. Detachment is that release. It allows the process to unfold without interference. Many people experience this without realizing it. They try to manifest something for a long time, constantly thinking about it, worrying about it, checking for it. Then, at some point, they get tired, they let go, they stop obsessing over it, and suddenly it happens. They call it coincidence or luck, but in reality, it was the moment they detached that allowed it to come through. But here is the key. You don't have to wait until you're exhausted to reach that state. You can choose detachment consciously. You do this by shifting your focus inward. Instead of asking, when will it happen? You begin to ask, who am I being right now? You stop trying to control the outcome, and instead you align yourself with the version of you who already has it. You live from that state, not for it. Detachment also means trusting the process. It means you are no longer trying to figure out how things will happen. You are no longer analyzing every detail or trying to force the path. You understand that there is a deeper intelligence at work, one that can arrange things in ways you cannot predict. And so, you relax into that trust. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your actions come from a place of ease, not desperation. You move because it feels natural, not because you're trying to make something happen. And this kind of action is far more powerful because it is aligned. There is a quiet confidence that comes with detachment. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer feel anxious. You are not checking the clock or measuring time. You simply know that what you have accepted within must appear. And until it does, you remain steady. So if you find yourself constantly thinking about your desire, constantly checking for results, constantly feeling like something is missing, pause. Recognize that this is attachment and gently bring yourself back to a place of wholeness. Remind yourself, I don't need this to feel complete. I already am. And as you return to that state, again and again, something shifts. The pressure dissolves, the resistance fades, and what once felt distant begins to move closer, often faster than you expect, because the moment you let go of needing it is the moment you allow it to arrive. There is a truth that quietly exposes everything about where you stand within yourself. And it is this: your reactions reveal your state. Not your words, not your intentions, not even your desires, but your immediate, unfiltered reactions to life. The way you respond when something unexpected happens, the thoughts that arise when things don't go your way, the emotions that surface in moments of uncertainty. These are the clearest indicators of what you truly believe. Most people focus on what they say they want. They affirm it, they visualize it, they think about it often. But when reality presents a challenge, their reaction tells a different story. They panic, they doubt, they assume the worst. And in that moment, it becomes clear that their inner state has not fully shifted. Because if it had, their reaction would be different. Your reaction is not something you plan. It is something that reveals. It comes from your dominant state, the belief you have accepted as true on a deeper level. So if you find yourself reacting with fear, frustration, or doubt, it is not something to feel guilty about. It is simply feedback. It is showing you what is still active within you. And once you see it clearly, you have the power to change it. This is where awareness becomes your greatest tool. Instead of reacting unconsciously, you begin to observe yourself. You notice how you respond when things don't go as expected. Do you immediately assume failure? Do you begin to question everything? Or do you remain calm, grounded, and certain that things are still working in your favor? Because that calm response, that quiet confidence, is the sign of alignment. When you have truly shifted within, your reactions change naturally. You no longer interpret every situation as a threat. You no longer feel shaken by temporary setbacks. Instead, you see them differently. You understand that what you are experiencing is not final. It is part of a process. And because of that understanding, you remain steady. This does not mean you become emotionless. It means your emotions no longer control your direction. There is a difference between feeling something and becoming it. You may feel a moment of doubt, but you do not stay there. You may experience uncertainty, but you do not let it define your state. Instead, you return to what you know to be true. You bring yourself back to your chosen belief again and again until it becomes stronger than any temporary reaction. Think of your reactions as a mirror. They show you what you are identifying with in that moment. If you react as someone who does not have what they desire, you reinforce that identity. But if you respond as someone who already has it, calm, certain, unshaken, you strengthen that state. This is how transformation happens, not in one big moment, but in small, consistent shifts. Every time you choose a new response, you are stepping into a new version of yourself. Every time you refuse to react in the old way, you weaken the old state. And over time, this becomes your natural way of being. There is something powerful about someone who is no longer easily shaken. Someone who does not react based on appearances, but responds from inner knowing. That kind of stability creates a different experience of life. Situations begin to unfold differently. People respond differently. Opportunities appear more naturally, not because you forced anything, but because you changed. And it all begins with your reactions. So the next time something happens that would normally trigger you, pause. Do not rush into the old pattern. Take a moment to become aware. Ask yourself, if I truly believed it was already done, how would I respond right now? And then choose that response. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, but with repetition, it becomes natural. And as it does, your entire state begins to shift. You are no longer reacting from who you were. You are responding as who you have chosen to be. And once your reactions change, your reality has no choice but to follow. Because the world does not respond to what you want, it responds to who you are being. So let your reactions become your guide, not as something to judge, but as something to refine. Because within them lies the key to everything changing. There is a stage in this process that feels almost ordinary, so simple, so effortless, that many people overlook its power. Yet it is one of the clearest signs that your manifestation is no longer something you are trying to reach. It is something you have already become. This stage is naturalness. When something feels natural to you, it no longer feels distant. It no longer feels like a dream or a possibility or something reserved for someday. It feels normal, familiar, expected. And the moment your desire reaches this level of naturalness within you, it becomes inevitable in your outer world. Most people keep their desires at a distance without realizing it. They place them on a pedestal. They think of them as big, hard, or unlikely. They imagine them with excitement, but also with a sense of separation. And in doing so, they reinforce the idea that what they want is not yet theirs. The desire remains something outside of them, something to chase, something to hope for, something to wait for. But naturalness dissolves that distance. When you truly shift into the state of having what you desire, something subtle happens. You stop seeing it as extraordinary. You stop reacting to it with overwhelming excitement or disbelief. Instead, you begin to feel as though it is simply a part of your life. It fits. It belongs. It feels like it has always been yours. This is not a loss of passion. It is a shift in identity. Because when something feels natural, you are no longer identifying as someone who wants it, you are identifying as someone who has it. And that is the key. Your outer world does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to what feels normal to you. If struggle feels normal, you will continue to experience it. If lack feels familiar, it will repeat. But when abundance, success, or fulfillment begins to feel natural, your reality begins to align with that expectation. This is why some people achieve things effortlessly while others struggle for years. It is not always about effort or ability. It is about what feels normal to them. The person who sees success as a natural part of their life moves differently. They think differently. They expect differently. And because of that, they experience differently. Naturalness removes resistance. When you no longer see your desire as something out there, you stop trying to force it into your life. You stop overthinking, overanalyzing, and overreacting. You become calm, stable, certain. And in that state, everything flows more easily. There is no urgency, no pressure, no need to prove anything. You simply are. And from that place, your actions become effortless. You don't act to get something. You act as someone who already has it. Your decisions reflect that identity. Your behavior aligns with it. And without even realizing it, you begin to move in ways that naturally lead to its expression. This is why naturalness makes manifestation inevitable. Because once something feels normal to you, you no longer resist it. You no longer block it with doubt or disbelief. You have already accepted it as part of your reality. But reaching this state requires consistency. At first, your desire may feel unfamiliar. It may feel like something new, something you're not used to. But the more you return to it in your mind, the more you feel it, the more you live from it internally, the more familiar it becomes. And eventually, it stops feeling like something you're trying to believe and starts feeling like something you simply know. This is when everything shifts. You may even notice that you stop thinking about it as much. Not because you've lost interest, but because it no longer feels separate from you. Just like you don't constantly think about things you already have, you begin to carry this quiet assumption without effort. And that quiet assumption is powerful because it is stable, it is consistent, it does not waver with circumstances. So if you find yourself reaching a point where your desire feels normal, where you are no longer overly excited or doubtful, where it simply feels like a natural part of your life, do not question it. Do not try to intensify it, because that calm, ordinary feeling is the sign. The sign that you have fully accepted it within. And once something is natural to you internally, it becomes unavoidable externally. It is no longer a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. And often that when comes faster than you expect. There is a moment in every transformation where everything is already in motion, where the inner shift has taken place, where the process has begun to unfold, and yet nothing visible has fully appeared. This is the most delicate phase, not because something is missing, but because something is forming. And in this stage, there is only one thing that can slow it down or disrupt it: doubt. Doubt is not always loud. It does not always come as a clear rejection of your belief. Sometimes it appears as a quiet question. Is this really working? What if nothing happens? What if I'm wrong? These thoughts may seem harmless, but when you begin to accept them, revisit them, and dwell in them, they begin to interfere with what you have already set into motion. Most people don't realize that they are not starting over because the process failed. They are starting over because they interrupted it. They choose a new belief. They feel it. They align with it. And then they look at their reality. When they don't see immediate results, they begin to question. That questioning shifts their state. And in that shift, they return to the old pattern. The process, which was already unfolding, is now delayed. Not because it stopped, but because they stepped out of alignment with it. You must understand this clearly. Once you have accepted something as true within, the process begins automatically. You do not need to force it, control it, or constantly monitor it. In fact, the more you try to control it, the more you interfere with its natural unfolding. Doubt is interference. It is like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to check if it is growing. Each time you do that, you disturb its progress. You delay its development, not because the seed is weak, but because you did not allow it the stability it needed to grow. Your belief is the same. Once planted, it requires consistency, not perfection, but stability. There will be moments where your mind tries to pull you back into old thinking. It will show you past experiences, present conditions, and logical arguments to convince you that nothing is happening. But this is where your awareness must become stronger than your habit. You do not fight doubt aggressively. You do not panic because it appears. You simply refuse to give it authority. You notice it and you return. You return to your chosen state. You return to your inner knowing. You return to the feeling that it is already done. Again and again. This is what creates continuity. This is what keeps the process moving forward without interruption. Understand that the outer world does not update instantly. There is always a gap between the inner shift and the outer reflection. And in that gap, doubt tries to take control. It tries to convince you that nothing has changed. But if you remain steady, if you do not react, if you do not go back, the old reality begins to fade and the new one begins to emerge. This is why stability is more powerful than intensity. You do not need to feel strong belief every second. You do not need to be perfect in your thoughts. What matters is where you return to. What matters is what you consistently choose to accept as true. Even if you have a moment of doubt, you can come back. Even if you feel uncertain, you can realign. The process is forgiving, but it requires your cooperation. There is something powerful about someone who has decided, no matter what I see, I will not go back. That decision creates a kind of inner strength that is unshakable. It builds momentum. It reinforces the new identity. And eventually, it becomes natural. And when it becomes natural, the outer world has no resistance left to reflect it. So if you find yourself in that between stage where you have felt the shift but have not yet seen the full result, do not panic. Do not question it. Do not interrupt it. Because what you are experiencing is not the absence of progress. It is the presence of formation. Something is already unfolding. Something is already aligning. Something is already moving toward you. And your only role now is to remain steady, to trust what you have started, to hold your state without wavering. Because the moment you stop interrupting the process completes itself. And what once felt unseen becomes undeniable reality. So now you know, the signs are not random. They are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They appear when you are no longer becoming the person who desires, but the one who already has. And in that state, there is nothing left to wait for. This is where manifestation happens, not in effort, not in struggle, but in stillness, in certainty, in the quiet acceptance that it is already yours. So when you feel that calm, that detachment, that naturalness, don't question it. Don't analyze it. Don't go back to searching. Because that is the moment everything is already moving toward you, faster than you think, closer than you imagine. So remain there. Hold it. Trust it. And watch how quickly your world reflects what you have already become. If this message resonated with you, carry this feeling with you beyond this moment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that helps you align with the reality you truly deserve. Stay aware of the signs, stay steady in your belief, and trust what you feel within. Thank you for being here.